Hey there, it's JohnBerry555 and welcome to my full and combined review for the last two episodes of Star Wars: The Bad Batch Season 2. So this is the season finale of Season 2. We have episode 15, The Summit, and episode 16, Plan 99. So I'll be dividing this review into two sections. In fact, I'll be just taking from my individual episode reviews, but with some added context and a more encompassing conclusion at the end. But kind of the introduction I want to kind of convey to you is that the summit was action, Plan 99 was tragedy. That's probably a good way of looking at it. But let us jump right on into it. This is my review of the summit. So like I mentioned in my spoiler-free review, this is the first part of the two-episode season finale that's premiering today, so check if you haven't watched it out. But as of the recording of this segment of my two-part review is that it was an exciting episode. It set up everything very well. There was some intriguing twists and turns, and it ended with a nice cliffhanger. So basically, what's going on is that the Batch decide that they're going to somehow save Crosshair and the other clones. There makes sense, and they realize that Dr. Hemlock, through some intelligence, that he's going to meet with Tarkin at the summit of Tarkin's compound on Iriadu. So I think this might be the first appearance of Iriadu on screen in canon. So I was wrong about which summit they were going to be summiting and all that. But you know what? I was still somewhat right that Dr. Hemlock would be meeting Tarkin. Though that was not the only person he was meeting. Krennic Project Stardust made an appearance. So yeah, that's kind of neat. Very subtle for Stardust, just Project Stardust, but Krennic appeared. But that's kind of getting sidetracked from the episode itself. So they infiltrate Tarkin's compound to plant a tracking beacon on Hemlock's ship so they can track him back to his base, which we know is Mount Tantus, but they do not know that yet. And so it's going well for them. Then they notice some of the security cameras are off. Yeah, they go into investigate, and guess who they run into? Saw Gerrera. And that's on the entire Sonan's plan, because Saw's plan is to destroy the base and kill Tarkin, Hemlock, and all the other Imperial officials there. Because that probably would have stopped Project Stardust sooner, but how is he supposed to know that? But like, their missions are in direct contrast. Saw just wants to hurt the Empire, lash out against it, hurt it, and cause them pain, and that's all he wants to do. Meanwhile, the Bad Batch is like, hey, we're gathering intelligence that could help your cause, help you destroy the Empire in the future. But Saw Gerrera is so short-sighted, he just wants to hurt the Empire in the here and now. In a way, he doesn't have the patience to wait to hurt the Empire. And I think that's a very good contrast and helps explain a little bit more why later in the timeline, why Saw Gerrera is so estranged from the rest of the Rebel Alliance. He does what he wants to hurt the Empire, and he's now working in concert with the other rebel cells most of the time. So it creates friction against them. They maybe even their missions may in this case are directly opposed to each other. I do kind of like that nice little subtle hint. I also really appreciate during Hemlock's meeting with Tarkin and some other Imperial officials that they are aware that there are senators like Senator Chuchi who are fighting for the clones, and they are also aware that they still got to play a little bit by the Senate's rules because the Emperor hasn't submitted firm control yet. What is Project Stardust's intending goal? To allow the Emperor and the Empire to implement firm control of the galaxy without the need of the Senate. I really do like how all that is weaving together. But of course, things don't go to plan because they end up getting a firefight, so both of their missions are compromised. So neither of them complete their mission. So at least Saul gets to destroy parts of the base. Meanwhile, the Bad Batch, yeah, that doesn't happen. At first, I thought Saul was going to take Hemlock's shot with a tracking beacon on it, but no, it gets destroyed when he destroys the base. Which is kind of unfortunate that the Bad Batch didn't accomplish their mission. But I have a feeling next episode with Plan 99, that will somehow allow them to accomplish this mission. But we just got to wait and see on that because I need to go and watch it. But before I do that, there's just one other little thing I would like to make note of. That the TK troopers, the stormtroopers that escorted Hemlock to Tarkin's meeting room and that came into the meeting room when the compromise of the base was discovered are all wearing red markings. like the Coruscant Shock Troopers back in the Clone Wars, and also there was, I think, Imperial Shock Troopers might have been the official designation that we saw in Battlefront One, like the first Battlefront game, and there was a few other things like that I would mention. But kind of interesting to note, there's no Death Troopers yet, so they're using specially marked Stormtroopers, I guess. Now that we got the summit discussed, let's move on into my review of Plan 99. So if you haven't seen my spoiler-free review, don't bother checking out. I literally tell you there to go watch the episode, then come to this video, because I could not talk about this episode without revealing spoilers, because just too much happened. Tragedy. That's the one word to summarize. This is a tragic end. But it also does mean that there's probably going to be a season 3. Thankfully. I was actually convinced that we might get only a 2-episode series. But looks like we're going to be getting a season 3, because if Star Wars and Lucasfilm do not complete the storyline, they're going to anger a lot of people. So where to begin? Well, Plan 99, well, remember what happened to 99 in the ARC Trooper arc of Star Wars The Clone Wars at the very end where he sacrificed himself? Yeah, that's Plan 99. Tech institutes Plan 99 in order to save the rest of the Bad Batch. They go back to Old Man Town City because they need AZ3 to give them medical attention. Finally, they've got him, and they've finally got him with them, though Sith betrays them to the Empire. But you can also tell that she's not happy about it, which is not something I expected. But she's looking out for her own self-interest, which is what that gangster all the way a couple episodes back had to predict. And seeing that episode, that was one of the first episodes really showing us getting a lot of Tech character development. We saw a bunch of character development for Tech throughout this season. And so when Plan 99 did it, it was perfectly building up, come on. But at the same time, do I trust Dr. Hemlock's claim that Tech perished and he only was able to save his glasses? Honestly, I'm not so sure. It's probably true. I think for the emotional story beating, it should be true, but there's no guarantee. But yeah, so Omega, of course, does get captured right after Hunter and Wrecker are captured by Dr. Hemlock. But because of Echo, at least Hunter and Wrecker are freed, but they have no idea where Omega is. But we know Omega has been taken to Mount Tennis so that way Dr. Hemlock could get Lama Say's cooperation. And yeah, and crossers are being experimented on. And we figure out that one Imperial technician, whatever, Emery, yeah, she's a clone. She confirms it, if she's telling the truth. But it wouldn't surprise me at all. We were all getting that impression at first to begin with. So now we know of another female clone trooper. So that means we know 3 female clones. We got Omega, who, well, we don't know too much about Omega, but we assume biological female. No, that's her genetic modification, for lack of a better description. Or just different genes activated. We don't know anything about Emery, but we do know in the book Brotherhood, and I think also Queen's Shadow. I think I haven't read that one, any of those books yet, but we know a transgender clone named Sister. So we don't know where Emery falls on that from biological to transgender. We do not know. But I'm getting the impression, because there's more focus on the genetics going on, that she's probably more like Omega. But I could be wrong, but is she even telling the truth? That's another thing we got to wonder. There's a lot of interesting stuff, and that's probably what's going to be explored in Season 3, hopefully, when we get it. But lots of interesting stuff, and of course, Crosshair's there. And Crosshair, I think, is being experimented on, but for what purposes, we don't know yet. But also, at the same time, now that Omega's there, maybe Emery may start questioning Dr. Hemlock. I don't know, because remember, Crosshair didn't only stun her when he made his warning to the Bad Batch. I don't know, but there's just so much happened in this episode, and it ended on a bummer note, pretty much. The only positive is AZ is now with the rest of the Bad Batch. Well, not rest, but is not with Sid anymore. That's the only positive thing I can think about that happened at the end of this episode. So, yeah. Well, at least it's something positive, but this also does mean it elevates the stakes for Season 3 that much, which is no good storytelling to elevate the stakes. Especially when these are emotional. Sure, we care about what Hemlock is doing to the clones and how that's going to help the Empire, but the real thing that's elevating the stakes in this episode is Omega's capture. And the claim revealed by Emily that she's also a clone, sure, that's neat and all, but that's not part of the emotional stakes of the emotional storytelling. It's just another intriguing part to the plot. But really, the stakes were elevated in this episode with Omega's capture. Well, first Record and then Hunter's capture, but truly, the stakes at the end of the episode is emotional all around Omega's capture. Is she going to be safe? Will the Bad Batch successfully rescue her? Will she, Crosso, and maybe even Emily and the other clones will somehow rescue themselves? We don't know. But the stakes are all emotional. It's not Death Star, it's not Starkiller Base, which at times definitely can work in certain scenarios, especially in the way they were presented as the all-encompassing threat of an evil empire. But here, for a personal story about characters, you need a personal stake. You need an emotional stake. And that is what this episode provides. So now that that's all done, we've reviewed both episodes. Where do I want to end this? I think it's going to end this way. Subscribe to my channel and ring the bell because when Star Wars: The Bad Batch Season 3 comes out, I'm definitely going to be talking about it because I want to know what happens. This episode is really, while the summit had action and some tragedy, Plan 99 was totally different. Like, we got to see Omega's point of view for out loud. Like, I didn't even expect that. Like, I forgot to even talk about it in my individual sections. So I'm tacking it here at my conclusion. Which, by the way, I just love it when we do that. We saw that with Agent Callus and through Imperial Eyes a little bit as well. But it really helped set the tone and the stakes of this episode even more with that one scene. They did such a good job with that. But at the same time, this episode was one tragedy after the other. Like I said earlier, the only good thing was AZ being reunited with the Bad Batch. That's the only good thing that happened in this episode. Well, plus the mystery of Emily. Is she really a clone? Or is she lying? Is she telling the truth? That's another thing too as well. But you never know. But yeah. So subscribe to my channel, ring that bell because I will be talking about season 3 when it comes out. And also follow me on social media that I have a link tree down below. What else do I want to mention? Like, upvote, and share the video so that way it does well in the algorithm. So that way my videos will show up to other people so we can get this discussion going and hopefully have an enriching discussion about season 3 when it comes out. That's a good way of looking at it. Or just this video so can we really talk and explore the concepts and themes explored in these 2 episodes of tragedy and all that. Yeah, this just helped show the video out. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and may the force be with you always.